You like to bake.
I love to bake.
What do you call the end of like a baguette? Two ends of the baguette. What do you call it?
The heel.
Okay, my wife calls it the butt.
Oh, okay. You sure? It could be
Right?
the butt of the bread. Sure. Yeah.
Calls it the bread butt. So my wife's out of town. I'm making dinner for the boys. I pull out a baguette. My youngest says, Daddy, I want the butt.
Sure.
And I was like, what do you want the butt of? He goes, I want the bread butt.
Yeah.
And I said, why? And he goes, I like bread butts.
And I cannot lie.
I said, can you lie?
Sure.
And he looks at me and I go, so I start singing, I like bread butts and I cannot lie. And the kid's just looking at me like I'm an idiot. And I was like, I got to play the song for him. I then asked Google to play the song and it plays the song. And as it's playing, I'm like, oh, I'm a fucking terrible parent. I should probably not be teaching them Sir Mix-a-Lot. I like big butts and I cannot lie.
Quiet, please.
So anyway, unrelated, we're looking for a new school.
4, 3, 2.
Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Season 2, Episode 33. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm CJ Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll add to the list of U.S. conflicts with China.
No. We get along fine with them. We love those folks.
It's National Butterscotch Pudding Day. Celebrate the deliciousness that is this tasty dessert.
Man, we are reaching deep into the National Day category. National Butterscotch Pudding Day? Are you serious?
I think it's officially the least controversial national day we've featured yet.
Is next week National Large Paperclip Day? None of those medium and small paper clips. Only large paper clips for us.
That's it. We are getting less controversial by the day. How is your week going?
Well, now I need to get some butterscotch in it, clearly. So it's in a little disarray. You know, as they like to say, the apple does not fall far from the tree. Have you experienced this in your life?
No, my apple has fallen far
Really?
from my tree.
No.
But that'll happen to you later.
My apple, at least one of the two apples, is like right at the base. It's like resting on a root of the tree. I can see it. It's right at the base of the tree. My son asked me this week if he can, quote, learn Java. This is what he said to me.
Oh, yeah, sure, of course.
And of course, my first reaction was for my heart to just melt a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I was like, oh my God, I'm just so glad he didn't say JavaScript.
Oh, sure.
That's what made me the most happy. And then I realized, I was like, oh shit, maybe he did say JavaScript and I just cut him off after he said Java and stopped listening.
Maybe, sure.
I really can't be sure. And I'm pretty sure how that would have gone is he would have said, no, Daddy, I want to learn JavaScript, to which I would have then responded with, get the fuck out of my house. You're no son of mine.
You don't want him making web pages of any sort?
Oh, he can make web pages, just not with JavaScript. You make it the old-fashioned way with tables. God damn it.
Oh, okay.
That's how we did it. I learned with tables. You get a div. Fuck off. I thought it was so cute, though. They asked him, he's in first grade, and they asked all the kids this year, what's the one thing you want to learn this year in first grade?
Yeah.
And his response was typing, so he can learn Java. I thought that was so
love
cute.
that he's so into that. What is the attraction with Java? Why has that captured his imagination?
He wants to learn Java because that's what mods in Minecraft are written in.
Oh, okay.
But I'm like, hey, if that's how you get there, if the destination is you being able to modify,
of course, however you get there, that's
I was
great.
like, this is great. However, this has accelerated one of my biggest quandaries in being a tech parent, which is that I'm just unable to allow my kids to learn QWERTY. There's no way I can let them learn QWERTY.
You are going to make their life harder.
No. That is false information. That is fake news. I know how to teach him Dvorak. I have taught myself Dvorak 20 years ago. It's the best thing I've ever done when it comes to interfacing with computers.
Listen. You can hear people turning off the podcast around the world.
I don't know what we're talking about.
You can hear the click.
Did we ever do a Dvorak episode? We need to do a Dvorak episode. I need to evangelize the world on Dvorak.
What CJ is talking about is styles of keyboards.
Well,
do you have a QWERTY keyboard or do you have a keyboard that is laid out some other way?
It's really layout. It's where the keys are. You see, QWERTY is an ancient standard. Its main design goal was to limit the arms of typewriters colliding into each other.
Right.
And it was designed to slow you down because you were too fast as a human. So we are still using a standard that is designed to make humans type slow and increase finger travel distance, which is terrible. Yeah. Anyway, this is just another way I like to affirm that I'm better than you. But it's going to get me kicked out of school because I'm going to have a first grader who's not only learning Dvorak, but then preaching to other kids. Well, Dvorak has 70% less finger travel than QWERTY, and they're going to be like, get this fucking kid out of here. We can't do this anymore.
It was like my kid when he first went to high school.
Yeah.
His high school required either a Windows or a Mac computer. And of course,
showed up.
I sent him in with a Linux
with an Ubuntu box, and they're like, oh, Christ.
No, it was Arch. I'm not an animal.
Did he start with Arch? Not an animal. Okay. First of all, you are the only person that I know in my life that can make my Dvorak obsession look less terrible.
Look sane?
Yeah, exactly. Look sane. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that you're doing that. Anyway, this is how my week has gone. How about yours?
Fall is here. Well, actually, fall begins on Sunday, September 22nd.
Is that right? Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, we're right here. The fun thing is Barkley is back on Runyon Canyon. He was back last week. Barkley, my dog, who likes to come on my hikes for years, have brought him in the summer, but have finally decided it's a bad idea because in the summer, all the snakes come out to sun themselves.
Sure.
I didn't have any problem with it until I came about 4 inches away from stepping on a big rattlesnake.
Ooh.
I didn't see it down there.
Sure.
It didn't see me coming.
Sure.
My hiking boot was 4 inches away from this thing.
Sure.
And I jumped into the sky like so high.
I bet.
It's amazing that your body...
Cartoon character.
Yeah, it's amazing your body can do that.
Yeah.
Look up cats with cucumbers and you'll see what my body did when I discovered that snake.
Normally, I'm the one on the show that suggests the risky link of the day or the risky click of the day. Today, it's you. Cats and cucumbers? No.
Cats and cucumbers on YouTube.
Listen, okay, first of all, open an incognito tab before you do this. Don't do this in your regular tabs, okay, folks?
You'll be amazed.
Do not search for cats and cucumbers.
People will put a cucumber behind a cat that the cat doesn't know it's there when the cat discovers the cucumber. By the way, don't do this. You're really stressing your cat.
Of course.
When the cat discovers the cucumber, it leaps into the air so high. You will see, like cat jumps you've never seen before.
Okay, well, I learned that today, so that's...
When I nearly stepped on the rattlesnake,
That's good to know.
And Barkley, by the way, was with me.
Sure.
Barkley was the smart one. He saw the snake after I jumped in the air, and instead of going to attack it, he just made a big path around it.
Just walked around
like,
it.
I'm not going near that.
Totally.
I got things to do. Why would I want to bother with that?
I don't know what that shape is, that danger noodle. I'm not going to fuck with that thing.
Exactly. So the snakes are back. It's cooler now, so the snakes are back sleeping in their holes or whatever snakes do, and I can bring Barkley up to Runyon Canyon for the hike.
Do they migrate? Or do they go to Florida? Where do they go in the wintertime?
I don't know enough about snakes or animals generally to know exactly.
I'm not a snakeologist.
Exactly. I just know they're not where I'm stepping now.
Sure.
Thankfully.
Good.
They weren't usually. There was just that one time, and I was just afraid, oh my gosh, if the dog steps someplace and there's a rattlesnake and he doesn't see it and he gets bitten, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I left him at home. He was bummed. All summer long, he was bummed he was not getting his walks because that's something he really, really loves. Now he's back.
They just get the summer off and it's like a union thing. Like, do they all just hang out in that pit in Indiana Jones? Is that where all the snakes are?
They might.
Yeah, snakes, coyotes. If you live in the hills in Los Angeles, there's no way to not see snakes and coyotes.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the time. We get coyotes up here by the house all the time, like at least once a week.
I don't mind the coyotes.
Me
I
neither.
think the coyotes, at least the ones that we see on Runyon, are beautiful, beautiful animals.
They are.
And they're more afraid of you than you are of them. They don't want to be around you.
Of course.
If you have a small dog or a small cat,
You're fucked. Pick it up.
and you're not around, then that's coyote lunch.
Yeah, that's
And you
dinner.
should know better than to leave your animal out by themselves.
I saw something the other morning, earlier this week, that I thought was very interesting. And I was like 5:45 in the morning. I had one eye open. I was not entirely there. But there was a critter walking outside. And I know what coyotes look like. Again, we see them all the time. We hear about those all the time. This was a bobcat.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've seen bobcats before, but I haven't seen them in the neighborhood. They're just big cats. It moves just like a cat.
Beautiful.
It gives zero fucks about anything around it, right? It's just doing its own thing. It's pretty crazy. Now, if it's a mountain lion, you might
Do we
want
get
to...
mountain lions
We do.
in this part of Los
Santa
Angeles?
Monica Mountains. No, they're in the Santa Monica Mountains. They come down every now and again.
I've never seen one.
Yeah, there was one a couple years ago that I felt really bad for this poor cat. It got stuck in someone's backyard in Santa Monica, and instead of euthanizing it and putting it back into the mountains, they killed it. I think they were afraid that it had gotten too accustomed to humans.
Wait, instead of euthanizing it and then putting it back in the mountains, isn't euthanizing it killing it?
Yeah, words are hard. Instead
I wondered, what in the world are you talking about?
Instead of putting it sleepy time, temporary sleepy time, they sent it to the Rainbow Bridge. How's that? All right.
Oh, poor guy. That's terrible.
What's it with the euthanize? Tranquilizing. That's the word.
Tranquilizing.
One of the izings. I don't know. I'm not an izer. Don't fuck that up when you're going in for your anesthesiologist. They're like, do you want the trank or do you want the youth? And I'm like, oh, take the youth.
What do you think? Should we get to our headlines?
Speaking of euthanasia, let's get to our headlines.
No reason not to.
We should do it. We got some good ones.
Walkie-talkie explosion reported in Lebanon after deadly pager attack. This was happening yesterday. The day before, pagers were exploding.
Yes.
And then walkie-talkies were exploding.
That's why you do not buy your pagers from AliExpress.
Or maybe why you should be buying your pagers from AliExpress and getting them delivered to you directly.
Yeah.
That actually might be a good idea. By the way, if you have any other electronics around your house that haven't blown up, your pager is blown up, if your walkie-talkie is blown up, anything else you have around your house, maybe get it x-rayed, maybe let's see if there's a little C4 in it. Maybe this is your chance to take it to the airport and run it through the scanner.
If you are a person of interest of a foreign power you are currently at war with, you might want to take a look at all of your electronics. I mean, a whole bunch of people were injured, and some folks were killed from both the walkie-talkies.
2,800 were injured in the pager explosion.
We still don't know a lot for sure about it, but it seems like it was certainly a supply chain infiltration.
Yeah.
When and how they did it is still unknown. I kind of suspect this was done at time of manufacture. It certainly could have been done afterwards. Israel's got enough resources to do this either way, but it's still fascinating to me. It appears that they've put some plastic explosives inside with some sort of switch.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're pagers, they're relatively dumb devices. I'm pretty sure everything is in plain text still.
Does everybody know how a pager works?
Who are you, the fucking pager king? Nobody knows how they work.
Well, I'm gonna explain this as quickly as I can.
Does everybody know how Sanskrit's written? No, of course not. Jesus Christ, they're pagers.
You feel free to jump in and correct me where I'm wrong. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Every pager receives every single page that is sent out in its area. Everyone receives everyone, and it just filters the ones and displays or vibrates or whatever it does for the ones that are meant for it. But it's receiving every single page.
Yeah.
So literally, you could send a page out that triggers something if a certain numerical string appeared. In this case, set off the C4, set off the detonator that sets off the C4.
Yeah.
It's not a very complicated thing. And also, the pager electronics are so small that the pager case has a fair amount of space inside of it. Unlike your phone, which is just crammed, every inch is crammed inside your phone.
I had a pager 30 plus years ago. I had several. Even then, there was a decent amount of room in the case. I mean, you had a big motor that acted as the vibrating unit, and then a battery, and that was it, right? I mean, there was still a decent amount of room. So
you need basically enough room for that display, which means you're going to have plenty of room for stuff inside.
The payload may have been encrypted. I'd argue that's irrelevant because it's still a broadcast message. You're still sending out a message
to everyone,
to effectively all of the pagers.
Yes.
The pager makes a determination if it's for it or not. And even if the payload is encrypted to only that pager, it doesn't matter because you could put a message out that all of these things, the firmware, I mean, I'm presuming if they, in the supply chain attack, if they change the firmware on the device, it would just read it and go, oh, this bit was set to, the exploding bit was set to 1.
Yeah.
And once it sees that, it detonates. It's really fascinating to see. I'm sure there's been a lot of industrial and technology espionage that we don't know about. There is some that we do know about that I think we should talk about on a later episode, specifically Stuxnet, which was super interesting. That was the
sure.
The Iranian centrifuges for uranium enrichment. And that was a fascinating play where we literally sent them drivers that destroyed their centrifuges over time.
Yeah.
And that was fascinating, right? Similar sort of attack vector.
You didn't kill that many. You killed 12 the first day, 14 plus the second day.
You probably shut down their comms for a while because how the hell are they communicating right now?
Smoke signals.
Like what do you go to? Like at this point, if I were someone who had a pager that went kaboom, I'd be thinking about pen and paper, and I'd be taking apart the pen and looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. I'd x-ray the pen before I did that.
Yeah, maybe pencil.
Think about that pencil and maybe check out if that's really graphite inside.
You know what? Maybe we're just going to talk in person. How about we just do that? That seems better than. I've got to believe that if they have any other devices, just like you saw with the walkie-talkies, if they have any other devices deployed like this, they kind of have to detonate them now because everything's already probably thrown in the bin.
You can pull this trick once.
Think about the same approach in headsets or earbuds. Like that's petrifying, right? You probably need a couple grams of C4 in my AirPods to get my death.
You don't need much.
You don't need to put a lot of C4 in my ears.
Chinese company develops a 65 nanometer capable lithography machine for domestic chip making. System still trails behind ASML and Nikon, though.
This is super interesting because as we've talked about previously on this show, we talked about ASML and how they sort of own the whole segment around advanced lithography.
Yeah, that's how a chip is made. And to make an advanced chip, you have to be able to make really, really fine lithography.
Very tiny.
And ASML is the company who has mastered that.
Yeah, and they are a Western company. We have encouraged the Netherlands to not allow that to be exported to China.
Right.
So China has no choice but to build their own. And this is extremely interesting to me because they have to do this. Now, they're still a long way behind, but they're making progress, right? So they're like right now, they're about 10x or so. They're an order of magnitude behind where ASML is.
Yeah.
Almost 2 orders of magnitude, really.
If I'm China and I've made this much advancement this fast, I feel good about myself.
Yeah, if it's legit, you got to keep going as long as it's not lipstick on a pig.
I feel like I'm starting from a standing start.
Sure.
The progress is pretty remarkable.
The other thing that was interesting about this to me is Nikon is not as far behind as ASML as I thought, just from a pure size perspective. I don't know what that means in terms of scalability and whatnot, but I thought that was interesting to see that Nikon was pretty close. So the Japanese have been working at this for for a while.
About twice the size? What's the
give or
ratio?
take. I mean, again, I don't know what to make of the data, but the process size looked to be about the same. The overlay size was about 2x. Yeah. But still, the point is you got some other options, which is good. You probably don't want all your eggs in one basket if you can avoid it. For comparison's sake, the Chinese developed deep ultraviolet lithography device operates at about 193 nanometers, offering a resolution below 65 nanometers, and comparing this to ASML's, quote, least advanced DUV machine.
Sure.
It operates below 38 nanometers and has an overlay accuracy of about 1.3 nanometers. I mean, I got to believe Intel's just sitting at home going, why didn't we do that?
Exactly. Intel paid for the ASML machine to be developed.
Yeah, exactly. So this is interesting. I think if China keeps at it, like they're going to get there. I just don't know if, by the time they get to whatever, 1 nanometer where ASML is, then where's ASML?
A quarter nanometer. I mean, it's,
50 picometers or something, and you're just going to be like...
It keeps on going, sure.
Oh, cool. Good job. Now you can make an iPhone 7.
At least they have the knowledge. They're gaining the knowledge. They're making their progress. I'm not saying yay for the country. It's a security risk for the United States.
Of course.
For China to be able to make it with those advanced chips.
Yeah.
But you still are like, for the engineers, good on you for figuring it out.
Absolutely.
That's impressive.
Super interesting.
TCL accused of selling quantum dot TVs without actual quantum dots.
That seems like a problem.
TCL is coming to scrutiny this month after testing that claimed to examine 3 TCL TVs marketed as quantum dot TVs, reportedly showing no trace of quantum dots.
Typically, you want it to do whatever it says on the tin and kind of not do what it doesn't say on the
cardboard tin, sure.
I don't know what to make of this story. So they did some testing. Some company did some testing of those screens and said that it showed no traces of these particular chemicals.
Cadmium, yes.
Cadmium, yeah. I don't know about you, but I know it's fall, but like around Easter time, I love those little cadmium Easter eggs.
I would like them if they were dark chocolate. I don't really like the milk chocolate.
Shilling for big dark chocolate. So they did these tests, I think that they were looking for these chemicals that are typically used in the making of these quantum dots. So it's cadmium and indium, which I don't even think we call it indium anymore. I thought it was guardian. Is that what Cincinnati did?
Yes.
Cleveland? No, it's Cleveland. It's Cleveland, right? Anyway, it's unclear. This testing is unclear if it has it or not. There's a quote from TCL that was great where TCL's like, we bought from 3 different providers and they promised there was quantum dots in it. And I kind of feel like, did you guys buy this shit off AliExpress? Like, is that what, like...
How do you not know what's in your own TVs? Yes.
Where's TCL sourcing their stuff? How do you not know? Like, when your response is, well, we bought it from 3 different folks. They all said it had it. It must.
It turns out, actually, they might have quantum dots that don't have cadmium. Samsung claims they do. So
Samsung claims they don't use cadmium in any of their TVs.
Right. So it's quite possible they do. They do actually have quantum dots. But this brings up the question, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you can't see it with your eyes, why are you spending your money on
snake
it?
Oil.
The whole point of this snake oil is to jack up the price of the TV.
Totally.
And apparently you can't tell whether or not it's there.
TCL is one of the budget providers, right? They're like the Hisense TCL. These are the low end of the market.
Sure.
And I considered buying some recently because they've gotten positive reviews for their software stack.
Yeah.
The panels seem to be somewhere in the middle. Like there's a reasonable chance your panel is going to stop working anywhere from 0 to 24 months in. Okay. But I will say, holy shit, you can buy the cheapest Samsung that Costco sells, which is probably the middle of the road Samsung, and it will be the best TV you've ever bought in the past 2 or 3 years.
TVs are really advanced, yeah.
The high end, you're paying a huge margin TV that you would have bought 3 or 4 years ago is now worse than the $300 TV you can buy from Costco.
Again, though, like microphones, you want to A/B/X test. A/B/X test.
Put it on the wall.
Preach this. Yeah. Yes, exactly. You want to test blindly. It does not matter what the specification says. It matters what you see with your eyes.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit with that. I would not test the TVs blindly. You can test the audio blindly, but the TV I would not recommend testing blindly.
House Committee approves bill requiring new cars to have AM radio. The House Energy and Commerce Committee approved a bill Wednesday requiring new cars to have AM radio, which was introduced in response to an increasing number of vehicles coming out without the first generation radio broadcast technology. The bill passed the committee on a roll call vote of 45-2 and now heads to the full House for final approval.
What's the next bill going to be? Is it one of the require your car to have like a hitching post for the,
yes,
for the
exactly.
horse? A place to hang my wig? Like where are we headed with this exactly?
Cigarette lighters must come back.
Yeah. No, cigar lighters. Sorry, they go straight back to the beginning. Must require wagon hitch posts so you can tow your wagon around. This is a good thing though, right?
Ultimately, this is a very good thing.
This is a really good thing because first of all, on the COGS side, it's got to have approached zero.
Absolutely
so there's no real COGS. You got a little bit of development cost, but like there's nothing incremental in terms of the cost.
They don't want to put the AM radio in because they want to put only things that you have to subscribe to it. And the AM radio comes out of the air for free.
Yeah.
I get why the car manufacturers aren't in love with this.
Look, I think that's certainly a part of it. I think another part is like just nobody uses this anymore, right? So just like when Tesla decided to take out the turn signals off their cars, they're like, nobody uses these in a Tesla. So just fucking get rid of the turn signals. At least that's been my experience in Los Angeles.
Mine too.
No Tesla can fucking signal any lane change at all ever, because I'm assuming the software doesn't allow it, but that's neither here nor there. But here's the problem. Yeah. And this is as a technologist, and also as I like to point out that your two hosts here, folks, are licensed ham operators.
Yes.
It's great when IP works and you've got terrestrial connection and you've got Starlink and you've got all this shit and everything works great. And then one day, if something happens, you have a major earthquake, you have some form of attack or infrastructure failure, none of that shit's going to work.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to go reach for Instagram and everything's down.
You're going to need that AM radio to work.
And the only thing you're going to have are these old technologies that are proven and work.
Yes.
AM radio will work. And if you need, what is it?
And it's simple.
EBS,
And
it's simple. Yes. It's well known. And like, I'd actually like to see, I don't know how small they get these, but like, I want this in my watch, right? Like I want my watch to have this or my phone to have it.
Not your phone, but most phones sold outside the United States have an FM radio included in them.
Yeah. I mean, I'd also like to see some standardization more around sideband EBS for emergency broadcast.
Yes.
Because you need this, right? This is important stuff. Again, IP is great and you should rely on IP as your first defense.
It's great until it breaks.
Until it breaks, right? And while it is a pretty durable system, it requires a lot of things, like power has to exist between you and the point that it came from. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Yeah. And with AM radio, you need a generator up at Mount Wilson, and you can get the 20 million people in LA, or at least the 10 million people in LA County, you can get to from Mount Wilson. That's pretty cool. It is fascinating to me, though, that like while we're contemplating AI and, you know, things that can reason for themselves and how that's going to change the landscape, the House is also like, we need our fucking AM radio. Who else is going to, how am I going to hear my Rush? What the fuck's his last name?
Rush. He's passed away. Rush
I know
Limbaugh. He's dead.
What's his last name?
Limbaugh.
How am I going to hear my Limbaugh episodes, right? Like they re-aired. Like
they're saying conservatives are worried about losing a lucrative platform for right-wing news and media. Yeah. That's not going to change. If you were going to listen to a conservative show, you were going to grab it as a podcast. You were going to grab it as 19 other ways. AM radio is not going to add one more listener.
I trust you. Your crazy parents can still get InfoWars on their fucking jitterbug phone. Just mash the InfoWars button at the bottom.
Okay, enough of the headlines. Up next, we're going to talk about the many ways the U.S. is in conflict with China.
This is the great low sodium, regular sodium soy sauce debate. Is that what this is?
That's what this is going to be, sure.
They're like, you need less sodium. We're like, give us the fucking regular shit. You keep it for yourselves, goddammit.
Okay, let's move forward
here.
Well,
before we do that, let's make a recommendation.
Oh, of course. Nonsense recommends the HP LaserJet 2P printer. HP's most affordable personal LaserJet printer, including 14 internal fonts. It prints at a blazing 4 pages per minute, and it even fits on your desk. The HP LaserJet 2P printer, available today for only $1,495 at a Computerland near you.
I got 4 square feet of desk space. I'm going to get me one of those.
Okay, let's go. This week, the Biden administration proposed rules that could make it more costly for Chinese e-commerce platforms like Shein and Temu to ship goods into the U.S. Biden's proposing a crackdown on unsafe, unfairly traded products and accused China-founded e-commerce platforms of selling cheap goods and abusing the de minimis exemption that makes shipments valued at under $800 duty-free.
All right, Joe, settle down with the fucking Latin, all right? De minimis.
We've had lots of little battles and skirmishes over lots of areas with China in the last 5 years. There are things that we think are just dangerous to have in Chinese hands, certain technology.
Sure.
There are areas we're concerned where China will get ahead of us.
Throwing stars.
Retail just happens to be the latest in a long string of these things.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's dangerous to have in their hands. We'd have virtually no retail here. They didn't make the shit for us.
We're going to get to that. We're going to discuss retail.
What if you put on like my Apple Vision Pro goggles?
Yes, and took away all the Chinese parts.
I want to put on my stupid Vision Pro goggles, and I'm going to make a little AR app so when you walk into Walmart, it just blanks out anything made in China.
Yeah.
What's left? I thought you meant the parts in the Apple Vision Pro. There'd be no Vision Pro. It'd be like a strap made out of wool.
Right. There'd be nothing. Same problem with the stuff that you're looking at on the shelves. Everything would disappear.
It would just be disappeared. You'd just be like, it'd just be an
There used to be this huge campaign by U.S. automakers. Buy American. You got to buy American. Support American jobs. And then, 75% of the parts in the cars were coming from Asia.
It always cracks me up when I see like some bro's got his jacked up truck, big old American flag flying on the back. And I'm like, those flags are made in China.
Right.
That truck's a Nissan. What are you doing, bud?
You're a little confused. You could be pro-world, though. That's fine.
100%. What's the world flag?
Understand.
Is there a world flag?
Your stuff is coming from the world.
We need a world flag. What would be on it? Oh, would it be flat? I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we're talking about raising duties now on retail products because of the way China is sending them into the U.S. to make them very, very cheap.
Sure.
And they're also subsidizing the labor and other things as well.
Of course.
But so we're talking about doing things that are restrictive to trade. Now, maybe for good reason, maybe not. However, it was Benjamin Franklin who put it very nicely that trading nations are less likely to go to war.
Yeah.
Economic interdependence could foster peace and cooperation among nations.
Yes.
That's kind of an important concept.
And we already have a lot of economic interdependence on each other.
Yeah.
Certainly. I don't think cutting out Temu is going to make that much different. First of all, I think you're doing the world a favor by cutting out Temu because 98% of the stuff that comes off there is fucking garbage.
I have never ordered anything from Temu or Shine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But people do. They must be getting some sort of value for their money. Is it like buying stuff from Walmart? Is it just a step below that?
I think it's a step below. I think it's a step below that. I mean, there is a group on Reddit that I'm a member of that's called Buy It for Life, which is basically talking about products that you buy once and they last, your whole lifetime.
High quality stuff.
Yeah, in theory, stuff that's actually going to last and work. Tools, things that you can buy one time that last forever. And I feel like the shit off Temu is the exact opposite of that.
Very disposable.
Yeah, it's all disposable. It's all one-time use. And that drives me crazy. Like even tools, like one-time use tools drive me nuts. Who wants a one-time use tool?
So you never go into a Harbor Freight?
Oh, I didn't say that.
Of course not.
Let's not write checks we can't cash. I will occasionally buy something from Harbor Freight. I hate admitting it. Every now and again. Actually, the last thing I bought there is, believe it or not, a U.S.-made thing. There's a specific metal gas can, and the closest place I could find it was Harbor Freight. And it's actually made in the U.S., which is bananas. It's probably the only thing made in the U.S. in the whole store. Yeah. For the most part, everything in there is trash.
It's Asian stuff that's cheaply made. I mean, it's
not just Asian. You can make stuff in Asia that's of quality. Just most of it's garbage. They just make stuff that's like one-time use.
If you're a construction worker at a job site and your tools are very likely to get stolen, why would you buy multi-time use tools? Why wouldn't you buy tools that could get ripped off?
Well, you lock your tools up, take them home. I used to have a view of tools of like just go to Craftsman, buy the lifetime warranty. Like, why would you buy anything else? It's lifetime warranty. What else do you need? Yeah. Then you have a Craftsman ratchet fail on you 3 or 4 times in a row. Yeah. And you bring it back to the Sears store and they would literally just look at it, put it in a drawer and take another one out of the drawer and give it to you that was just as bad or worse. And I'm like, this is fucking stupid. This stuff's trash.
That's not a warranty, right?
And then what inevitably happens is you have a tool that fails on you when you need it the most, and that is never fun. So anyway, I digress into tools. This has been Tool Time with Tim Taylor. Instead, this is just stuff that's like, again, it's like one-time use. It's like clothes that are usually not great quality. I haven't bought everything from there, so I don't know, but my view of this, of living in other people's shoes, has been that it's all trash. So I'm okay if it goes away.
Now, that's not true at AliExpress. You buy things from AliExpress.
Lots of garbage there, too.
There's tons of garbage, but there's occasionally the gem. You do find things that are quite valuable on AliExpress.
I have had a surprisingly successul run of buying quality stuff off AliExpress.
I have as well.
Believe it or not. Here's the thing. Anything that could impart risk into my life, I need to have a brand behind it. There's got to be something behind it that needs to stand for something.
Or great reviews or great word of mouth.
Because if there's no brand behind it, then who gives a fuck what they put into it? Oh, here's this baking mat made out of lead. Like if it's made by no name brand on Amazon.com, I just assume I'm going to be getting a shitty product. Somebody stand behind it. Yeah. You can make things safely in other countries, including China. Yeah. That's not my point. My point is there's a whole bunch of cheaply made shit that is not made safely, and if there's no brand behind it, they got nothing to lose. They just flood the market with garbage, and places like AliExpress and Temu offer this like direct access.
Happily sell it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, sure. I mean, I think on AliExpress, like if the order doesn't show up or if it's late, they give me a $1 credit. Like that's how they handle those situations. I've always had stuff show up, but there's always like a thing where it's like the $1 guarantee. And I'm like, well, yeah, I bought like a $10 case.
I know. But I mean, generally retail is now rearing its head as an issue. There are lots of others.
Sure.
Semiconductors. I mean, we're going to talk about a bunch of them. Artificial intelligence, 5G technology, space exploration, biotechnology, social media, etc. There are lots of things where we have come to a bit of a tussle with China specifically. And those are the things that I wanted to talk about.
Well, semiconductors, I think, was the top of your list. That's a big one.
And the linchpin there is going to be ASML.
Normally, I find most of this stuff, the answer just becomes some form of espionage, right? You just end up paying somebody with a bunch of...
Who knows how this machine works. Who can recreate this machine.
That happens.
Now, does that person have to defect? Do I actually need that whole person? Or is there information they can download onto a thumb drive and send me?
Well, with ASML, I don't know, because it seems like there's a whole lot of physical process in that. It's not just like some source code they can pull down.
Correct.
That might be harder to get in a single source. I think it's hard to get several people to help you commit espionage. You really kind of need one.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure there's one person that can just copy the whole thing out. maybe.
I mean, if I'm China, why don't I hire, ASML's top staff and just pay them 10x what they're currently making?
Yeah, I mean, you've been to the Netherlands. It's pretty nice.
That's true. It is nice.
It's not like you want to go to China from there. And China's excellent dumplings.
It's no Netherlands for sure.
No, there's no tulips. Here's the thing I would be on the lookout for. I'm not a shill for the CIA. If, however, someone in the Netherlands happens to pop up like a shop with like a bunch of cheap T-shirts,
sure,
that might be the guy that they're paying.
Temu branded T-shirts.
Yeah. If the People's Republic of China is paying some dude in 10 million shitty white, off-white Heather Temu T-shirts.
Maybe that's your leak. Maybe that's where the information is getting out.
Maybe that's your mole.
Again, though, I don't think you can download a thumb drive full of information and send it off China. I think it's so many physical processes. Yeah. You need the physicists. You need the humans.
And those actual ASML devices, it's not just like a thing they drop off and set up for you. It comes with employees to run it.
Comes with humans, yes.
So you need the meatware to operate the thing. That might be automatable at some point, but I don't think they've done it. Maybe by design.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And they're farther ahead than anyone on this.
Oh, without a doubt.
In hindsight.
Yes, in hindsight.
The Chips and Science Act
was poorly named.
At least an order of a magnitude too small.
Well, yeah,
and it was a massive.
Yeah,
was a massive amount of money. We're not even close to what we need to address the issue.
Yeah.
They got what they could get. I mean, when it happened, you thought, wow, this is an enormous amount of money. And now you realize, wow, this is not even close to what we need.
I mean, I think it's going to be really hard for us to stay a controlling dominant superpower without controlling
chips.
Ultimately, the thing. Yeah. I mean, these chips are going to go into not just like obvious things like weapons, but if you want to control AI, if you want to be able to control information at large, you've got to be able to access and preferably control the building of these things. There's no way around that.
We used to make chips in this country all the time. We are the inventors of many of these processes. And part of the problem was we stuck for way too long to the idea that one company ought to be able to do every part of this.
Sure.
And meanwhile, the rest of the world was all segmenting and becoming expert at a specific piece of the technology. Yeah. And that actually proved to be a much better way to go.
For now, I mean, that could be TikTok. They could go back and forth. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, Intel didn't have a choice. It's not like there was a foundry at the time they could go to. They had to build it.
No, but Intel was the biggest investor in ASML's technology. And then when it was finally available, they passed on it.
Yeah, no, we got this. Was that hubris, you think? What do you think that was?
Yeah,
who knows, right?
Bean counting stupidity. I don't know. It was obviously they will tell you now too. It's obvious for everyone. It was a massive mistake.
But okay, so you presume we have some modicum of control for at least a while over the most advanced chips. That also then keeps you ahead when it comes to applications of those chips, right? Like whether it's artificial intelligence or
that's the next one we're going to do, is artificial intelligence. We're both racing to develop AI capabilities with concerns about military applications and ethical implications of AI technology.
Sure.
How's that going to shake out? Obviously, we can't stop them from having AI. They have AI.
Yeah. But your point right there, to me, is part of the argument for why the devices, the infrastructure should be, at least in the U.S., should be stuff that is built by U.S. companies, or at least companies that we have U.S. oversight over, because ultimately you want to own those secrets. There's going to be secrets in those.
This is going to move us to the next one. Let's just get right to it.
Sure.
Which is 5G technology. The U.S. has sought to limit the use of Huawei's 5G equipment, citing national security concerns.
Yeah. I'm saying more than just 5G, like all of your infrastructure. So your core networking gear, your switching equipment, all of that stuff.
But this is a specific case where we literally have banned this equipment.
Sure.
And we've also tried to encourage our allies, hey, don't use this.
Yeah, not just 5G. Also, we've banned a whole bunch of Chinese camera manufacturers from government deployment, which I think is generally a good thing.
And a drone manufacturer.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
DJI.
So, I think you want oversight over the companies that control those things, and that's generally a good thing, especially for infrastructure. It'd be bad if, let's say they put out firmware updates, and every firmware update's got a dead man switch in it that just kills itself after 3 years. As long as you get updates, it's fine. One day if they stop, all that stuff becomes paperweights. That's bad.
By the way, isn't that an argument for diversity of equipment manufacturing?
For sure.
Because you could make a bonehead mistake that causes that piece of gear to go belly up at a certain
time.
I
mean, that does happen.
It absolutely happens, of course. So why wouldn't you want, really more importantly, you would want diversity of manufacturing?
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah. Diversity comes with its own set of challenges, though, on the manufacturing side and on the deployment and management side. It's a lot more work to manage that than single source.
But at least I don't all go belly up at once. At least I have my problems staggered.
Well, they might not. I mean, typically you're going to have paths of still single point of failure on a manufacturer level. That's going to be a thing. You can't duplicate everything. You're going to have separate NICs in every device. And separate machines. Like you know what I mean? you're going to have some subset, but more than one better, right? 2 much better than 1, 3
sure,
not as much better than 2. Yeah, I get that.
Eventually deployment becomes an issue and everybody has to learn all
deployment and management. Yeah. You got to manage that stuff too. That's tough, right? And then you got to worry about interop and all that other shit. So it's not easy is my point. But I think at least zooming back a layer, you go, well, at least if the country can control the companies that are there, that seems to me to help quite a bit.
Real quick, let's move on to autonomous vehicles.
Autonomous vehicles are the one where I think it's really interesting because I believe despite Tesla's best efforts to just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, Tesla's not even a player yet.
But I'm just saying everybody else, we've taken a pretty controlled approach here in the US, right? We've been very cautious, been very open. We have not killed a lot of people with autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
And my hunch is that has slowed innovation.
Although Tesla has killed more than others.
Yes, of course. They do have the high score.
I don't think anyone else has killed more than Tesla.
Well, they like to overachieve over there. But my point is, you probably could have innovated faster if you didn't stay in those safety regs.
If you didn't care about human life?
Yeah. And my hunch is when you've got, over 1 billion people, you do put less of a price on the human life. And that might mean that they, being China, might be a little more aggressive in their autonomous vehicle development. And that could make them a leader or winner of that race. I don't know.
Waymo is so far ahead of everyone else, it will be hard for China to catch up anytime soon.
But I don't think it's like ASML ahead. And for a couple of reasons. One, there's nothing novel about their sensor arrays that I can tell. They're LiDAR sensors.
Yes, I'll tell you what's novel about them. You want to know?
Cost?
Yeah. No one's going to put LiDAR on their commercial vehicles that they're selling to end users. Only if you're going to use it as a taxi service does that expense make sense.
Who builds shit cheaper than China? No one.
Right.
So if anybody can build cheap LiDAR, it's them. My point is, though, that their hardware isn't the thing that separates them. It's their software. And that's probably the easiest thing to get out.
No, I think the hardware is actually what separates them.
The
fact that they put LiDAR on those cars is making all the difference.
Oh, I agree.
Yes, their software is light years ahead of everyone else. I agree with you, though. The software thing is a very slippery thing, and you can lose your advantage in that very quickly. The LiDAR and the cost of LiDAR is going to stop everyone else from taking over their position anytime soon.
What if it's all like Temu LiDAR? Like you just hold a flashlight and just flip it back and forth.
LiDAR is kind of binary. It either works or it doesn't.
It is pretty binary by definition.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. I could see these guys. I could see China being a leader in autonomous vehicles. I also think that is one of the first things that we should restrict or ban from coming into the country. I don't think you want a bunch of phone home devices or
not if it passes all of our tests.
No,
again,
no.
It's silly. You're afraid of the global kill switch again. Like all of a sudden the cars stop working.
Global kill switch is part of it. I think this is actually worse. I think if you said, hey, let's take the Google cars that drive around, right, and take photographs of everything. Mm-hmm. Let's do that. Let's just send all that data back to the PRC.
They already can get it. All the Google car information is available to you.
I can't get it en masse, though. We're going to go scrape Google. If you had a company that was mapping all of the U.S. that wasn't a U.S. company, I think we'd be a little grumpy about it. Like, I don't know, TomTom probably does it.
Go look at Open Streets.
Mapping is one thing. Mapping, I would say, is probably pretty easy to get.
You brought up the
there.
Google cars. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the actual picture, like video mapping of all the streets. That's what I'm talking about. That, to my knowledge, that is not easy for someone like China, like a state actor, to get above board.
Any manufacturer of an electric car that has 8 cameras attached to it is going to have all that information.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, that maybe we shouldn't let those in here. Seems bad.
Don't you think all that data is available for sale from Tesla?
Oh.
Do you think there's anything keeping them from selling all of that?
Yeah, I mean, you would hope some national interest would help them.
Not one thing. There is no national interest. It is 100% commercial interest there.
I don't know. First of all, it's a lot of data. I like to think that those companies would be like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do this deal. Maybe we shouldn't sell these petabytes of data.
You'd like to think it, but no. Think of the guy who runs the joint.
Yeah, I try not to.
He doesn't seem really concerned with the welfare of others.
You got 2 streams here of data. You've got the ones is the stream out, which is what we're talking about. You also have the stream back in. And having a bunch of autonomous vehicles, you could do some real coordinated damage. It is absolutely possible. So I think you need the company that ultimately sits at the top of this chain to be a U.S. controlled company. I do think that's important.
You can also, as we said, with 5G systems, you can also have problems that are just accidental problems that happen concurrently.
Of course.
You might be better off with a diversity of autonomous vehicles.
I still think you want diversity. Yeah, I think you want diversity for a lot of reasons, including that one, certainly. Yeah. But I think you might not want them to be a player. You might not want the PRC to have ultimately command and control over a bunch of cars or a bunch of people.
Turning off your car.
Well,
they'd pull that off once, by the way.
Turning off your car?
They'd pull that trick one time.
You might only need one time.
They would never sell a car here again.
Send all your cars to this place right now. Instant gridlock. I don't know. There's a lot of shit that could be non-obvious that gets done as well. I am not one to be a fear mongerer, but this certainly feels like you're giving up a lot of potential control.
Goodness, are you fearful?
I'm not fearful.
You're terrified of these people.
My car's got no computers in it, a stick shift. Good luck controlling my car from afar.
Okay, I gotta move forward. Biotechnology. Potential misuse of biotechnology, including gene editing.
Yeah, similar to what we said earlier. Like they put from what I can tell, they put a much lower price on human life.
Do they have CRISPR machines? Are they able to edit genes as well as we can?
That's a good question. I don't know. I assume so. I assume that's relatively.
Can I buy a CRISPR machine off of Alibaba?
I'm assuming. I can go to AliExpress for a diamond making machine. I can probably get a CRISPR there too. Although it comes with a different size power plug. That really is the hard part.
You can get the adapter. You're good.
There's some interesting biotech and interesting pharma coming out of China. Again, I don't know what their view on safety and efficacy is like relative to here. I mean, one thing we've done pretty well here in the U.S., while the FDA definitely has their challenges,
sure.
I don't feel like I'm going to walk into a pharmacy and get a script for something filled
by a drug that's going to kill you
and die. Sure. That is not a concern that I have.
Can you innovate faster if you don't have those kinds of regulations when you're testing the innovation?
Of course.
Then once I have my drug working, then I can bring it to the U.S., put it through the U.S. Challenge process, and get it passed. So I can move faster in creating medications.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Potentially. I could see where that's true at the expense of maybe a bunch of folks' life. We try to do it here in escalating levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
You start with mice, and then you work your way up and rats, and maybe you get to apes, and people get really pissed off when you test on apes.
People get pissed off when you test on mice.
Yeah, they're mice though.
When people get really upset is when we test really trivial things on mice, like makeup.
Sure.
We squirt it right directly in their eyes, and we're shocked when people get upset by that.
All right, so you volunteer. We'll take the mouse out. We'll put you in. All right, smile.
Space exploration. Both countries have ambitious space exploration programs. China actually wants to have an outpost on the southern tip of the moon.
I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. It's going to be like another Temu shipping point. They're just going to shoot a bunch of cheap T-shirts back to the planet?
That's it.
What's their plan? Space exploration is really interesting. This is one of those ones where you really hope everybody just gets along.
You also want them to share the knowledge that they get. Yeah. You want us to do it as well. Anything we discover about space, we got to share.
Obviously, we were early in the space race, and we made all sorts of terrible decisions then. I think we've gotten better now. I believe we've gotten better. But you still have stuff like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you had an old Russian rocket that slammed in the side of a Iridium satellite and created a whole bunch more debris. You don't want that. And then I think China some time ago put up a satellite that was designed to be like a robot repair or decommission satellite.
A garbage collector.
Basically, yeah. And it's you could use it to collect, the trash, or
you could take out good satellites, sure.
Active satellites. So those are all problematic things.
And when you collide with a piece of debris in space, you now make a zillion little pieces of debris in space.
That's the biggest problem, yeah.
That now collide with things that aren't debris that are actively being used, and now you have more debris in space.
It makes more debris.
The problem just keeps compounding.
It's like the breeding of mice.
How about social media? The U.S. and China have differing approaches to regulating social media.
Exactly the same. They're both identical. Free speech is really promoted in both places, and you can really do what you want. No, this is interesting to me to think about social media and just knowledge at large. China's behind the Great Firewall, for those that don't know, which means they get to limit. The PRC limits what comes in and ultimately goes out, right? They're restrictive in this.
What your people see, yes.
So there is a separate world of knowledge inside China when it comes to the internet. My experience has been everybody that I've met from China that's been even moderately educated or better
has a VPN.
They have a way to get around the firewall. It is
they get right
the biggest known secret that everybody can just get around this. It almost renders the Great Firewall useless because you can get around it so easily. And that's always kind of amazed me that they don't just block all VPN traffic, but there's plenty of ways to disguise it.
Sure.
Anyway, so back to social media, it's an entirely separate world there, right? They've got a whole separate set of platforms. They have ones that are promoted and sort of sponsored directly or indirectly by the government. Those are the ones that make it, and the rest don't.
You have to be very careful what you say, not only on social media, just in public, generally in China. Look at Jack Ma running Alibaba, started Alibaba, managed to make himself vanish for some reason for a few months, and when he came back, magically he was no longer the controlling shareholder of Alibaba.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot more at stake there.
Looks like he had a bad day at the spa.
All right, well, those are the ones I wanted to go through. Do you want to talk about quantum computing? That's another one we didn't really get to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about that. It's still very early stages. I got to believe that's a legit arms race. I mean, more so than nukes, I think.
It's not a useful technology yet.
Not yet, but I do think you really want symmetry here. I don't think you want any one power to get this first. I think you really want symmetry. You want everybody sort of get it at the same time. And hopefully through espionage and leaks, you're going to get something similar. Everybody sort of gets it at the same time.
That's exactly how it will spread,
Typically how it does, yeah.
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Well, yeah, man, this is me phoning it in. But I did watch a bit of the Emmys last weekend.
Yeah.
And I thought the bit that I saw was fantastic. Kimmel was super funny when he was up there.
Hilarious.
Some jabs at Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart was, I thought, absolutely hysterical in his acceptance speech. I thought Oliver's acceptance speech was great.
For the dogs.
I know, with the dogs. It was super fun.
That was so sweet.
And he screwed up his kid's name, which I thought was even more funny. And the fact he's like, oh man, I'm going to pay for this, which is exactly what I'd be thinking as a parent. There was a little skit that the SNL performers did on Lorne Michael, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
I really can't remember the last time I enjoyed an awards show this much that didn't have Ricky Gervais emceeing it.
Sure.
That was my takeaway. How about you?
It had a lot of fun moments in it. I'm going to recommend The Bear Season 3.
Oh, yeah.
A brilliant young chef from the fine dining world returns to Chicago to run his family's sandwich shop, The Beef, after his brother's suicide. Last season, they turned The Beef into The Bear, a fine dining establishment. This season, they run it seeking that elusive Michelin star rating. Incredible writing and acting with Jeremy Allen White, Eben Moss-Burkrock, Abby Elliott, Oliver Platt, and Maddie Matheson, who actually is a chef but doesn't play one on the show. The Bear Season 3, see it on Hulu.
Did you see the first 2 seasons? Did you enjoy them as much?
I did.
Yeah, I need to watch this.
So good.
I feel like this is a show I'd really like, and I can't believe I haven't watched it yet, so I will definitely check that out.
Excellent. That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for All This Nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from our awful company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Stu Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, my favorite Overcast, wherever you may get your podcasts from.
Nonsense uses SyncThing. Make sure you always have the latest versions of all your files on all your computers anywhere you are in the world. SyncThing does that effortlessly. Free and open source. Be sure to check out SyncThing. Special thanks to our floor director, Chris Jackson.
Thanks, Chris. We're here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us.
So what you're saying is the Chinese are bad at innovating.
It's not their focus. Very good at copying stuff, not good at innovating. That's been my experience.
Do you have that experience when you go on TikTok?
What?
There you go.
There's nothing to me that's super innovative about the product with the exception of the selection algo. I think the selection algo is really good.
That's the whole game.
That's the whole game. Yeah.